The Trump family has been ordered to testify in New York, the case brought by Big Tishy Leticia James, and she's in the courtroom, usually sitting behind the bar. And a lot of activity happened this week, and we're going to see the family showing up to testify because Judge Engoron issued an order saying the following, that on Wednesday, Donald Trump Jr. is going to come in saying these people were closely related to the Trump business affairs, and so they got to put it on the record. Eric Trump is going to be here on Thursday. Ivanka Trump coming in on Friday. Ivanka's appealing this, and we'll see if it is lifted or if she will ultimately be testifying. But here is a little bit of background before we jump into the trials activities of the day, because there was a bunch of activity in New York. A lot of financial statements were shared, including valuations for Mar-a-Lago that we'll look at. But Trump's children are now set to take the stand at the fraud trial this week. You can see this is what it looks like inside the courtroom. We have Trump is going to testify as well. This is coming in early next month, and it stems from a lawsuit brought by Tish. In the past 4 weeks, lawyers from the AG's office have argued that Trump's employees had arbitrarily assigned some valuations. And here, Trump's business licenses have been canceled, but what we are expecting is the following. 17 witnesses have testified so far. This week, the Attorney General plans to call, so these are the government's witnesses, Trump's sons and his daughter Ivanka to the witness stand. Trump Jr. is expected to testify on Wednesday, Eric Thursday, Ivanka Friday. Mr. Trump going to take the stand probably the following Monday on November, a lawyer for the AG's office said. So Trump's attorneys are then going to start presenting their defense shortly thereafter, and the trial is expected to conclude before December. Now, this case also has a gag order, and Trump got fined $10,000 for a second violation of that gag order, which his attorneys once again promised to appeal. And so that is the latest. That's the context. That's the jumping off point. But we're back in trial for another week in the courtroom with Judge Engoron. And today we're checking in with Adam Klasfeld. He reports over for The Messenger. Highly recommend you follow him if you're interested in the law and updates. Does great reporting. He's there. We are in week 5, man. Civil fraud trial kicks back off. We've got some new testimony of this guy, Raymond Flores. He's going to be back on the stand as we start. An ex-Trump org vice president who recently described his communications with Eric Trump, which is why Eric Trump's going to be coming next. Here's what we got. New York Attorney General, the government, says, Your Honor, good morning. Okay, we recall to the stand Raymond Flores. So the government prosecutor, he's showing Flores a spreadsheet. He says, you see all these cells? Look at all these rows and columns. You recognize this? Yeah. What is it? He says, well, that's a financial statement of conditions for June 30th, 2018. That's right. The prosecutor says, well, I want to play a voicemail that's related to that. So they cue up the tape recorder, and he says, who's on this tape? You hear who this is? It's playing a tape. He says, I know who that is. That's Jeff McConney. He's the Trump Organization controller. And he left for Flores the following. It says, quote, on Christmas Eve to come up with additional reasoning to come up with a 4% cap rate for one of the properties. That's what's on the voicemail. You remember that voicemail? Yeah. So about 3 days later, they said Flores made a change to the value of this property. So Flores gets a voicemail, and Flores is on the stand. Okay, so Flores is on the stand. He got a voicemail. After he listens to the voicemail, Flores made a change to the value. So he shows him a spreadsheet. This is the number. Got a voicemail. You change the number. Is that right? He says, I don't remember making any changes in response to the call. I don't remember, but that was in 2020. So he says, well, I want to play another voicemail for you then. If you don't remember making that change, who's this voicemail from? This time it's from Raymond to Patrick Burney. So then they get Patrick's phone, and Raymond, the guy who's on the stand, it's his voice. Like, do you recognize this one, Mr. Flores? Oh, yeah, that's me. So in the message, Flores, the guy on the stand, can be heard saying that Eric Trump asked Flores to reach out to Bernie about the statement of the financial condition. So then Bernie's the guy who wanted to make additional reasoning. No, actually, that's Jeff McConney. So Bernie's another person. Let's see who this is. So in the brief message, Flores can be heard saying that Eric asked Flores to reach out to Bernie. So they say, thank you. Now we know who all these people are. I want to turn your attention now, Mr. Flores, to Mar-a-Lago. You see this chart over here? Yeah. It's got valuations on Trump's statements of financial condition ranging for about 10 years, 2011 to 2021. The Attorney General, prosecutor says, isn't it true that Trump fraudulently valued Mar-a-Lago as though it was his private residence, despite swearing off its use as anything other than a private club? So Trump owns Mar-a-Lago. Can he live there, or is it a club? And how is it categorized for valuation purposes? Do you understand Mar-a-Lago, Mr. Flores? Do you understand whether it was valued as a private residence or was it a private club? Which one? Did Trump live there or not? I don't recall, says Flores. Adam makes note. Judge Engoron also found before the trial that Trump fraudulently valued Mar-a-Lago. Already been decided. So here's another email. And I say, Raymond, I want to show you this other email that you got. You remember this one? It says November 13th, 2020. Subject, calls from the media. November 13th, 2020 is just a week after the election. Just an FYI, we got calls from the media about the appeals for Mar-a-Lago and Doral, and they're looking at the documents for valuations. The government says, do you see where it says commercial and not residential? And he says, yeah, it says right here, the property is marked as commercial. So Mar-a-Lago. marked as commercial. Got it. Now, I also want to show you this withdrawal of the valuation appeal. And there's another document here where the tax representative says that he agrees, apparently somebody agrees, with a $26.6 million appraisal. So here's what it looks like. Mr. Flores, I want to show you another email from a tax representative who submitted the document, another person, a senior consultant, and they say this one is about a Mar-a-Lago homestead exemption. The email says, last year we briefly discussed the possibility of filing for a homestead exemption on the Mar-a-Lago property since Trump had legally declared Palm Beach and the Mar-a-Lago property as his personal residence. So can we classify it? These are internal emails. The email rattles off how Trump would need to, quote, meet certain requirements in order to qualify for that exemption, like transferring ownership to him as an individual instead of the company. So these are lawyers and accountants all figuring this stuff out. The email says, currently, this property is assessed as a private club with the current assessed value at $359 a square foot. The surrounding residential properties are assessed on an average of over $2,000 per square foot, with a recent sale of just over $3,000 per square foot. They're saying that the heart of the fraud allegations is that Trump valued it as though it was a personal residence, knowing he agreed to use it as a private club. So it's just different valuations based on use. Something's more valuable if you can use it for more things. So New York Attorney General concludes direct examination, no cross. And they're trying to get there's classifications of Mar-a-Lago. They take a break for a recess, but we're back. Government calls David Cerrone. David, can you swear up to God? I do. Now, David, can you tell us a little bit about what you do? He says, yeah, happy to be here. I'm an assistant commissioner for business development. Oh, really? How long have you been doing that? Well, a long time. What else do you do? I also manage special events at the New York City Parks Department. He's a Parks and Rec guy. So they say, well, I want to show you some of these documents. This is some paperwork about Trump golf links at Ferry Point. Recognize this? Here's how Trump described it. Trump golf links at Ferry Point, 18-hole public golf course, Jack Nicklaus signature design, blah, blah, blah. Recognize that? Yeah. Well, I want to show you this other licensing agreement. He's at Parks and Rec. He's a business guy, right? Records guy with the government. Introduces the licensing agreement between Trump Ferry Point, the LLC, and the city of New York from 2012. Displays a letter. Puts it up on the screen. It's a letter from Trump's accountants to the New York City Park Authorities, this guy's office, saying the following. Trump's people say, the compiled financial statement showed a net worth in excess of $4 billion in cash and marketable securities in excess of $250 million. But she says, but didn't Trump actually have a much lower net worth that year? And the use of the word compiled before a financial statement says that maybe you didn't investigate the underlying data because it was compiled. You didn't go generate it. You just compiled it from other people who generated it. Is that right? So we get a little cross-examination now. Trump's new lawyer jumps onto the stage. Witness is still in the stand. Her name is Jennifer Hernandez. She comes from Christopher Keese's law firm. Shout out to Jennifer. Hernandez calls the witness's attention to other portions of the agreement. She says, oh, that's it. No further questions. Don't get much more out of that one. So you've got some other discrepancies. Okay, here's a discrepancy. No further questions. Now, government calls someone else. We're moving fast through witnesses here. This one is a video deposition. The next witness testimony is a video deposition of Claudia Moradian. She's an ex-vice president and senior underwriting officer for commercial surety at Zurich, North America. Government is up. Notable part of her testimony, they show her a transcript of Alan Weisselberg, somebody who's already been charged and convicted, and says, here's a transcript. At any point in 2018, did you inform a Zurich underwriter, somebody who would evaluate claims, that the valuations contained in the statement of financial condition were in fact performed by appraisers? I don't recall saying that, no. And referring to that passage, the witness says, it's not consistent with what he told me during the hearing. So two people are saying different things about valuations. Now, one of the last lines of her testimony in the video deposition is this: we're expecting our customers to be truthful to us when we're underwriting them. And I'm sure they leave it there. That's it. Trial's adjourned for the day. And so that is where we're at, my friends. A little bit of an uninteresting day. Some more documentation, some more valuations, some homestead exemption stuff. We got the Parks and Rec guys there, but they're laying out that there are discrepancies in the Trump reporting that is indicative of fraud, and therefore the valuations are off to a certain extent, so the damages will amount to whatever they are. And I'm sure the numbers just keep going up every time that they have one of these discrepancies. So we'll have this week more coverage on this one because we're going to have the family in court the rest of the week. Don on Wednesday, Eric on Thursday, and Ivanka on Friday. And so, my friends, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking this video. Thank you for sharing the work that we're doing here with a friend or family member so that they know what's actually happening in these cases, not what the media is telling them. And we'll appreciate seeing you here on the next one.